Okay, we're up to Ches Amid Aleph, right? Just to reiterate a quick sugya, we said that the only person who can make you into a mitzvah is the kohen, right? The only person who can make you into mitzvah is the kohen. We had a machlokes between Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda, exactly what the source was for that, right? Rabbi Yehuda had a pasuk of biyom haharois, and Rabbi had a pasuk b'tziva kohen by the house. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbeinu HaKadosh, learned it from the mitzvah of the house. Madach what, the kohen has to pronounce the house, right? Until the kohen pronounces the house, you bring the stuff out. And Rabbi Yehuda said, biyom haharois, look at it during the day. Some days you see it, some days you don't see it. We made it tzrichasa, and now we're up to Ches Amid Aleph. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines down. Amamar. Amamar always means literally the master said, but it means labrias. We're going over the brisa. By now we know that, right? It's Amamar, going over the brisa. Yesh yom she'at haroya boy. There are days where you go ahead and the kohen looks at it. Yesh yom she'at haroya boy. So we said, for example, a chasen, you're not going to look at it. During the regel, you're not going to look at it. And during Chalamoid was machloikis if you look at it or not. Rabbi Yossi said you don't look at it. Rabbi Meir said you do look, but you don't pronounce if it's tamei, right? Now, so my mashma, where do you see from those words? Where do you see ubiyom herois? Where do you see that? What in fact that the days you see and days you don't see? So Rabbiya in Cain. If the Torah just wanted to tell me that a day you look at it during the day, lichter rachmana biyom, just write biyom without the vav. My uviyom. What's the uviyom? That extra vav. Shmamina yeshem shataraya v'yesh aboy v'yeshem she'iyataraya boy. There's a day that the kohen looks at it and days that the kohen doesn't look at it. So therefore, the extra vav is learning uvayim from the extra vav. We're up to Ches Amid Aleph. Rav is of the opinion kula kroy yiseruhu. The whole pasuk is extra. The whole uvayim is extra. The whole word. Dim kain lichter rachmana ubeherois. Why do you have to say uvayim? My uvayim shmamina yeshem shataraya v'yeshem she'iyataraya. So the question is, where Rabbi Yehuda learns it from? Does he learn it from the extra vav, or does he learn it from the extra word? Fred the Gemara of Abaya. Why does Abaya do the fact that the word is extra? He says, no, I use it for something else. Since I use the vav to teach me that he looks at some days you do, some days you don't. The kohen is only able to look at the tzaras during the day and not night. This has nothing to do with visibility. It could be he has perfect visibility. In other words, for people who are interested in vision, it's nothing to do with an ability to view the tzaras. It's a gezeres hakasav you could only pronounce during the day. That's it. In other words, you could have wonderful lighting and see the exact same thing, with a good torch or something. It's not has anything to do with the ability to see. It's the gezeres hakasav that this can only transpire during the day. You only take this during the day. Biyom, you can go ahead and look in the day, but you can't look at it at night. Okay. But Rava, where does he know Biyom v'lei b'layla from? Since he uses what the word to teach me the halacha that sometimes he sees it, sometimes he doesn't, right? But where does he know it from? Nafkale, the pasuk says, "Kol meres einai kohen." It's mashma for every meres einai kohen when the kohen can see. Rashi says, "Mashma b'yom sheyachol yirais," where he's able to see. This would be, as I just said, this would be the ability to see. In other words, to not exeris the kosev, but ability to see during the day. Rabbiya. What does Rabbi do with that pasuk? Since he already knows you have to look during the day. Let's say you have a person that has one eye. Obviously, two missing both. You can't do it. But if you have one eye, even one eye is not able to do it. So it says the eyes of. Mashma, he has eyes of, and not one eye. He has two eyes, and he doesn't have what? He doesn't have one eye. The Ravanami. Rabbi needs the milkol miras enei kohen. He needs just to teach me that a one-eyed kohen cannot pronounce tzaras. So he needs it for that. So now we go back to the original question: where does Rava know? Where does Rava? Where does he know that biyom v'lei b'layla from? Since he's using the word biyom to teach me, sometimes the kohen pronounces mitzras and sometimes he doesn't, such as the regel, he doesn't. Where does he know that only at night and during the day and not at night? It says minega nirali bebayis. Now that's the pasuk. Li v'leila oiri. Minega nirali. it appears to me. What does it appear? Li, directly to me, v'loyla oiri, and not as the use what of an external source such as or fire. So nearly, but bias, he says, he learns it out from the fact that there's a gezeres hakosef. He has to see it with his own eyes and not as the result of being able to see it through an external means. V'abaya, what does Abaya do? What does Abaya do that pasuk? Ime hasam havamina hani mili tumah delav legufei. Maybe tumah that's not in the body. Maybe tumah that's in the house you have to see with your own eyes and not an external source. Aval tumah dugufei, but tumah which is on the body. I feel nami. I would think you even go ahead and use an external source such a fire to go ahead. Kamash malon that no. Kamash malon that no. That you can't. That even a mitzvahs in the body. The pasuk says you have to see it during the day and not at night. So that's again, everyone agrees that, guys, in the bottom line, everyone agrees it has to be al yedei kohen. Everyone agrees that it has to be during the day and not during the night. And there's a question, where do you know it from? Machlokes isn't the source, but the halacha remains the same. Again, we don't do hilchos negoyim bisman hazeh. V'oid amar Rameya. Now we had a machlokes between Rameya and Rabbi Yossi in the previous Mishnah, right? The previous Mishnah, when we were discussing, Rameya said you can go ahead and see tzuras and not pronounce it. Then we had the Chachamim who said that what? If you look, you have to pronounce. You don't have the option of saying, "Oh, go get a cup of coffee," right? You're tummy, yeah, you're tummy. So that and the Gemara went ahead and showed that who's the Chachamim? The Chachamim is Rabbi Yossi. Good. We showed that. We spoke out that Rabbi would couch his halacha behind the words Chachamim, even though it's a single individual. So we had one machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi regarding Chol Moed, regarding the pronouncing negoyim on Chol Moed. We now have a second machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi regarding Chol Moed. That's the segue into this Mishnah. V'oid omer Rabbi Meir, melaked adam atzomes aviv v'imoy mifnei shesimchi loi. A person can collect the bones of his mother and his father because it's a simcha for him. Rabbi Yossi Yomer, avol hu lo yitzin avol. Okay, let's give you a little background to this. Different sources, different machlokes. I like the Yerushalmi. This is the one I'm going to speak out. They used to have, for a person to get his kapara, they need burial. They need to be buried. They had family plots, a crypt, and they would put him in that family pot. That pot is called a kuchen, and we're going to see it Be'ez Hashem on the Amid base. But in order to facilitate the decomposing of the body, they put it in soil that had strong sulfuric acid in it. In other words, a very acidic. Guys, that's why harazesim is harazesim. The soil there is very, very acidic, and therefore it's prone to go ahead and decompose bodies. And that's why harazesim, because when the body decomposes, it gets its kapara. So it used to be a custom at the time. They would go ahead, bury their parents in soil, decompose. They then get a box. They would be malakate. They'd gather the bones after decomposition. They would take the skeleton, put it in the box, and then they would intern it into the family crypt known as a kuch. So that's what the Gemara is discussing now. Can you do this in Chol Moed? Can you do this process of gathering the bones on Chol Moed and bringing it in? You would think like Rabbi Yossi, it's an avol. Rabbi Meir says something very, very interesting. He says, "Malakit et samis aviv imayim mifnei simcha like," because it's a simcha. Doesn't seem so. Doesn't say al stercha. He says you could do it and say simcha like. It's a simcha. The Gemara is going to ask right away. I can't imagine today that. Yay, let's go. My boys and girls, let's go ahead and gather the bones. It doesn't appear to be something that a family trip. It does a Chol Moed trip, right? When your kids are bothering you, what to do Chol Moed? Let's go ahead and gather bones. Okay. Anyway.
Treasure hunt.
Let's go find Zadie.
It seems a bit bizarre. Anyway, l'chol hapachos. We're going to see Pshat v'simchi lo. Fascinating Gemara. Rabbi Yossi says, Aval hilo, it's an Aval. And that's the first din in the Mishnah. The second din in the Mishnah, lo ya'ara adam al mesai, a person shouldn't hire, we're going to see they have professional eulogizers. You shouldn't hire a eulogizer. Al mesai, v'lo yispedeno, and nor you should be maspid, kaidim l'regel shleishim raim. This has nothing to do with Chol Moed. This seems to be halacha that was totally in 30 days before the regel, one should not get involved in hiring a maspid, as we're going to see. Okay, let's see the Gemara. So again, Rameya's interesting shita. What was Rameya's interesting shita? It's a simcha to go ahead, apparently, to malakate the bones of one's parents. For the Gemara Ramini, I'll ask you a stira. Hamalakit at sames av ve'imai. Harizemes abel aleim kalayoim. The day you do it is the din of avelis. The day of likud at sames is the din of avelis. Ula erev, but once it comes the evening, a misabel aleim. You're not misabel aleim. So we have apparently a stira between a brisa and Rabbi who says it's a simcha the day that you go ahead right and you gather the bones of one's parents. From Rav Chisda, I feel it's true even if they're tzora besadin, meaning they're in some type of material where you don't see the bones. Nonetheless, it's a day of avelis. You don't need the re of the bones to create the avelis. Even just seeing the bones is avelis. So Rabbi says Abaya, Ema same simchas haregel love. Don't say, guys, it's because hey, in Achinami, the gathering of the bones is sadness. But since you have the simcha of the regel, it would offset the sadness, and therefore one could do it. The simchilo is not referring to the act of likud at samais. It's referring to the fact that it's what it's cholamoid. Since it's simchas regel, that would go ahead and mitigate the avelis that one feels. I mean, maybe you could do it on cholamoid. Let's see Rashi here. Says Rashi. Mifnei simchas regel love. Klaimar, harbehu oisik b'simchas regel. He's very, very busy with the simchas regel. Ve'enim mitzstar b'malakit at sames avimah, and as a result, he won't be malakit. In other words, what's the shaila over here? It's not a shaila of tircha. It's a shaila, guys, of v'samachta b'chagecha, and going ahead and neutralizing your simcha. So the answer is that no, it doesn't do that. Since the lashon of Rashi, or since what? Is harbu oisik b'simchas regel. He's being oisik so much in simchas regel. This would not be a problem. That's the stira. The stira is it's a din of avelis.
Right.
The din,
how could you?
it doesn't.
You say okay, I have simchas regel,
And right.
It overcomes, but I'm required to be avelis.
That's when it's a regular day. When it's a regular day, there's avelis. When there's the simcha, this is speaking about the day of likat samas. That's not the moed, is avelis. But where it's the moed, it's not. That's the thing.
Right, and we don't sit shiva even on Chol Moed.
No,
We wait till after Yontif.
you wait till after Yontif, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
So is that stem from this, or it comes from this?
That makes sense. Yeah, of course. I mean, of course, you can't be misabel on the moed. You can't be misabel on the moed. My father, all of a sudden, was nifta on Rosh Hashanah. There was no veilus on Rosh Hashanah. I said shir. If you recall, I was a nine, and I was able to say shir. That was okay. Anyway, okay. Then the end of the Mishnah spoke about being ma'ar on the base, being masper on the base. My loy al meslay amarav kadhoda saftina b'marava amri. When the saftin in Eretz Yisrael would go around, he would come and say, Yovkin ame kol marire livi. Come cry with me, all these people who are bitter of heart. So they would hire people to be ma'orer crying for him. That's the Gemara is explaining what exactly is a saftin, and a saftin was a professional eulogizer, and he would tell people, I guess the people who knew the mace, that's the stranger, the people who were identified with the mace, they would go ahead and he would gather them up, and that you shouldn't do 30 days before the regel. This is not a chalamoid din. It's a din of 30 days before the regel, and there's a second din of layis bedenu kaidem regels. Now, my shna shleishim yoyim, why after 30 days? So Amarav Kahana, Amarav Yehuda, Amarav, Maisabad Mechad. He gathered his money together to go up bail the regel. He wanted to use the money for the moed. Ubas Saftin came along a eulogizer. V'aman al Pesach Beisai came to his house. And that Loslin Ishtay and his wife, he was for hire. His wife went ahead, took the money. And she gave it to him. And as a result, he didn't have money. Nimna, he held back. He wasn't able to regel. So it's a gezerah 30 days before. Why happens 30 days before the regel? Because one time it occurred that 30 days before the regel came along, and it was as a result of giving away the money to the saftin Therefore, if it would be guys that you wouldn't have a saftan 30 days before, you wouldn't have to worry about this. And so Isa Shah at that time, Amr the Chacham said, "Lo ya'or al meis," so a person shouldn't arouse other people on meis. Lo yispedenu kaidin l'regel shleishim daim. So it's like one din. It's like it goes together. It's like one din that of being what of being ma'orer and being 30 days before. So Rav says it's a monetary issue. Rav says it's a monetary issue because we want you to be oil l'regel and you may spend your money on that. Shmuel says l'fi she'ena meis mishtakas min alev shleishim yoim. A mace is not forgotten from 30 days before. In other words, if within 30 days of the regel, you're going to have a hesped, it's going to go ahead and be ma'ared, it's going to shter your regel. Because you can listen to the regel, you're going to be remembering the hespedim. Because 30 days before, it's not forgotten. So therefore, if you stop 30 days before, you don't have to worry. But in other words, it's a simcha dikadin. It's not a monetary kadin. It's a shtering your yontif dikadin. If within 30 days, if you're going to have a saftan going ahead and give a eulogy, that is going to be part of you for 30 days. Thus, it'll extend into the Moed. Therefore, we don't do it. My binaya, what's the difference between Rav and Shmuel? Rav said it has to do with money, and Shmuel has to do with the etzim simcha of the Moed. It could be nayu the ka'avid b'chinam, right? Now you do it for nothing. So like Rav, no problem. Like Shmuel, it still will be a problem. Right? So what about Bisman Hazeh? Bisman Hazeh is no Beis HaMikdash, right? So like Shmuel, it makes sense, right? But like Rav, yeah, you hear guys? Ramban, yes, like Rav. So machlekes Rav and Shmuel be'issa, we pass like Rav. A rule, one of the ruling mishas. Machlekes Rav and Shmuel, halacha kishmuel b'mamin. When it comes to monetary matters, the halacha is like Shmuel. When it comes to things of davar asur or muta, that will be Rav. Rav is the Tano. Rav is the Moira over here, and apparently we pass like him. So bisman hazeh. Now we do eulogize 30 days before we do it. But the kasha on the Gemara is a very stark kasha. Loi Rav, we paskin like Rav. So if there's no Beis HaMikdash and you're not being oil l'regel, so it shouldn't be a monetary problem. So the Rambani has the kasha, and he gives the teretz that even if this man hazeh, there's no din of aliyah l'regel, simchas yontif, spending your money for simchas yontif, you know, we all know what it means to spend money simchas yontif. If you bought a pound of shmura matzah recently, right, you know what it is to buy simchas yontif. So in Hela, it still holds true bisman hazeh. Okay, I mentioned previously on the Moed Aleph, there's something called a kuch. It was sugya arucha. We're going to see Masechta Baba Basra. What a kuch is in the art school teaches is a catacombs. If you've been to Eretz Yisrael, it's a little cave. You walk into the cave, and it was 4 amas by 6 amas. That was pretty exact. 4 amas by 6 amas, approximately 8 feet by 12 feet, 8 by 12. You would have 2 in front of you, and you'd have on the side, you'd have another 3, I think. So it would be if it's down or in the walls, and they would go ahead, you'd have to dig into the mountain or dig into the cave, dig into the walls to place what? To place the bones. To place the bones. That's called a kuch. It's called a kuch. Now, ein choifin kuchin ukfaris b'moed. You cannot go ahead and dig a kuch or kfaris b'moed. Obviously, this is a big tircha. Now, what happens if you have it doesn't mean if you have a mace there or just in general. Guys, does it mean you can't dig a kuch? Does it mean in general? Or does it mean that, right, even if there's a mace there? So look at Rashi. Ein koifin kuchin v'kfaros litzoyrech mesim, for the needs of mesim. Shedarkan lachbar kuchin, it was the way to go ahead dig kuchin v'kfaros. The zamname that they should be prepared litzoyrech mesim sheyamusu, that they would die. And the reason you can't do it is the tirchi yasira. Clearly, Rashi stating, guys, if you had a mace, you would be able to do it. If you had a mace, you would be able to do it. This was just to prepare, right? This just prepare to have it available. But in other words, but sorche mace on the Moed, you'll be able to dig a grave on the Moed. You'll be able to dig the kuch on the Moed if the mace is there. This is speaking where there is no mace, simply that, you know, for the future, you should have one prepared. That's what it means. You can go ahead and be mechanech the kuch. You can go ahead as we're going to see. You can go ahead and widen the kuch, which Bez Hashem we'll see in a second. Right, to widen an existing one is not. The tircha is to dig it initially. but to widen it, not.
You don't need this.
No. So ein koifim kuchen b'kvaris, the number one. Din number two, you could mechanches a kuchen b'moed. Din number three, the oisin nevreches b'moed, you can make a nevreches is a pool of water that they would use to launder in. You can make a pool of water on the moed. A fourth din, the orin, you can make an orin in my mace b'chatzar. If the mace is in the chatzar, you can make the orin for the mace. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Oyser, Rabbi Yehuda would say would acid making the orin. Elam kein yesh imo nesarim, unless you had the boards previously prepared. It says Rashi, Rabbi Yehuda Oyser, lahevi eitzim lasaisim nesarim, to bring wood, to chop wood, and to make boards. That sarach orin. Elam kein minusarim mitchila kaidin yantif. They were made boards before yantif. So he says that he would not allow you to do. Mashma, even the mace is there, he would not allow you to do it. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Guys, are you allowed to wash on Chol Hamoed? Clothing.
No, yeah, look, you have the same shirt, and you need to wash it for the.
Okay, so look at Tosfos, the small Tosfos. We only do small Tosfos. Small Tosfos. The osin nivreches b'moed tema, says Tosfos. I wonder. How can you dig a ditch that they used to wash clothing? You're not allowed to wash on Chol Hamoed. Come on, the Perek Basra, people just came out of prison, people came out sick. There are certain, if you only have one, but there's certain heterim. That those who explain this brecha is for the purpose of the mace, to washing down the mace, or for the shrouds, the tachrichin. So that's two ways to deal with a pretty simplistic kasha. Okay, says the Gemara. My kuchen, my kfaros. What exactly a kuchen? What's exactly kfaros? Rabbi Yehuda, kuchen is bechafira. Kuchen is with digging. Kfaros bebinyan. That was like on top. They would make a binyan. They make some type of binyan for kfarim, but it wouldn't be digging. Tanya nami hachi. Either way, it's a terchi seir. Tanya nami hachi. Elohin kuchen ve'elohin kfaros. Kuchen bechafira v'kfaros bebinyan. So that's the difference between the two. Aval mechanchem es a kuchen. What is ketza mechanchem? How are you mechanich a kuch? What does that mean? Rabbi Yehuda, now the word chinuch, guys, doesn't mean to teach. The word chinuch means to start something. Chanukas habayis, you're having the starting of a house. Chanukas hamizbeach, the start of the mizbeach. Chinuch is the lashon of beginning, when you begin. So we use it in conjunction with teaching a child. We say chanoich lenar. So anyone who begins someone to do something is called a mechanich. You're a trainer. That's really what you are. So now, here you're mechanich the kuch. You're beginning the kuch. What does that mean? If it was too large, the katzro, you're permitted on the moed to go ahead and make it shorter. Yes, the maslita and tana in the Tosefta we learned ma'arich boy u'marcheh boy. You can make it either wider, longer, or wider. Either one will be permitted. We said nevreches b'moed. You can make what nevreches b'moed. My nevreches. What exactly is nevreches? Rabbi Yehuda zu bekia. So bekia. Bekia seems to be a pool for laundress. You're telling me they're the same. Nevreches is a bekia. We have a brisa that says it lists two things. One, nevreches, two, bekia. So simply you have to say that what? They're not the same thing. How can you tell me nevreches and bekia are the same thing? You see, simply they're not the same thing. Some Rabbi, Vitem Rabbi Kana, Geya ubar Geya. Rashi speaks out, you'd have a big ditch with water, and then there'd be a ditch next to it for the overflow. So that's the nevrachas is the big one, and the bekia is the one next to it for the overflow. I think that's what Rashi said. Yeah. That it's a small one. We said v'orin in my mace b'chotzer. If the orin's in the mace of the chotzer, one will be permitted to make what? An orin, a coffin. Tanya lu lahadatan rabbanan. Oisin called sarchi mace. You can go make all the tzarchim of a mace. Goisin l'sara, you can cut his hair. Umechapsin like susa, you can wash his clothing. Voisin like orin, you can make an orin min sarim from boards. Hamanu sarim erev yontif, that will what? That will cut erev yontif. That's exactly what the Rabbi Yehuda said in our Mishnah. You can even make eitzim with nasrim, b'tzina b'tek beisai. You'll be able to go ahead. If they weren't made, you'll be able to take wood, go to your house clandestinely, and go ahead and make the wood. So it's a big shadow like this. Guys, we learned to Masechta Shabbos, the halacha of maris ayin, where you do something, right? We saw Masechta Shabbos, let's say a person's walking, and he gets his tunic full of water, one would not be permitted to hang it on the line outside his house because it would appear as if he washed on Shabbos, even though he didn't. So the Gemara there says that even if something done b'chadrei chadorim, anything that's also masayin that you're worried a person might see, even if you're in a scenario where a person can't possibly see, you're in a room, an inner room, and an inner room, you don't have to worry. So the over here, why would a person be able to go ahead, take wood in, and do something? Why don't you worry about marasayin? What? Again, you're doing it according to the opinion that you can only make the orin if it's prepared beforehand. The mace is there. I don't understand you. The guy's held before Rabbi Yehuda says it's asa. What does that mean? Even though the mace is there, you would not be able to go ahead and build an orin unless the wood was prepared. If the wood wasn't prepared, you won't be able to make it despite the mace being there. So what's your teretz? Yeah. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is saying, oh, no, you don't need it prepared beforehand. You can bring the wood into your house and prepare it there. So I'm asking, what's the problem with Marasayan? So the answer is that there are different Gedarim. There's different Gedarim of Marasayan, and sometimes they're permitted, sometimes not. Taisus speaks during Kesubis, where you have a drain pipe, and in a scenario where you have things growing in the drain pipe, you're able to go ahead and unseal it. So Taisus says it's similar to that. Says the Mishnah. This is a classic Mishnah. Ein noisin nasim b'moed. You can't get married in a Chol Moed. Now, guys, be careful. There's a difference between engagements and getting married. We know Kiddushin is the act of what we call getting engaged. We know, in fact, in Gemara's terms, it's getting married. Nisuin is coming to live together. So you don't make Nisuin b'moed. And we'll see a very famous reason in the Gemara why you don't do that. No matter who they are. Loi b'sulo, it's not a woman who's never been married before. V'loi almano, it's not a widow. V'loi miyabin, nor a sister-in-law. That there's a din of yibum, one cannot be miyabin sister-in-law because it's a simcha for him. And we're going to see the simcha here is not the same as the previous simcha. It's different. If a person was previously married to this woman and he divorced her and she never remarried, and then halachically is able to take it back if he's not a kayin, he's able to go ahead and do this on Chol Moed. It's not such a simcha.
Why is it simcha? Simcha would be good for Chol Moed.
But a woman can make makeup on the Moed. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer loy sasad is a type of makeup. I think it's called a depilatory. That remove depilatory. I think it removes hair. So loy sasad, they would lose sid, they would lose lime. The same stuff you'd put on the kafarim, they put on their face. Okay, because it's not so
Baselines. They make the batter's box and the baselines out of lime.
Let's not discuss baseball, okay, Yankee fan. All right. I think I remember, who was that? That's Philly's second baseman that hit 3 home runs in the first in the World Series against the Yankees. There was a second baseman on the Phillies. Hit 3 homers in a World Series game.
Chase Utley.
There you go. I kind of knew you'd know that.
Sure.
Yes. Okay, anyway, that's what you get for opening a baseball. Now, I had it, Taifer Kedarkai. A hedyet can stitch kedarkai. In other words, it's not in my umin. For umin, a person who's a tailor, machlev, he has to stitch like kedarkai. Machlev, not a normal stitch. Umisagim as a mita, you're able to go ahead and put on the bottom of beds. You're able to put the strands of ropes. You can go ahead and stretch it out. Okay, we'll get to that. But the first part of the Mishnah is this is very, very famous. Why can't you get married in Chol Moed? Chol Moed is a simcha. Getting married is a simcha. Let's have just a very joyous time, right? So the Gemara is going to say the following: is what, right? My havalei. So if it's a simcha that he's getting married, what do you care? Adarabba. It's a time to be happy. It says Rashi. My hava. Simcha sur b'yantif. Is it asa to have a simcha on yantif? Adarabba. It seems to be something we should do on yantif. So Amrav Yudah Mashmuel v'chein Amrav Elazar Amrav Oishia. The Imrila Amrav Alaza Amrav Chanina, the Fishain, very famous line, the Fishain Ma'arvin Simcha B'Simcha, because we don't mix one Simcha with another. You don't mix one Simcha with another. Okay, the Gemara is going to give 4 reasons why you can't get married on the Moed. The first one is that you can't mix one simcha with the other simcha. There's a Taisus here that seems that there's a concept of not making mitzvahs chavilas. In other words, don't pile on the mitzvahs. Do one mitzvah at a time. Don't make it like, so here you have the simcha regal. Don't pile on this simcha. That's why aim arvin simcha the simcha. Enjoy the moment of the mitzvah you're involved in, rather than going ahead one and dumping another one and somehow taking away from the other one. Ein oisa mitzvahs chavilas loads. That's the reason behind that aim arvin simcha b'simcha. You don't mix one to the other. It's good places to know.
From what Lovin said, not to marry.
That Mamish Tosus quotes that.
Yeah, that's it. I looked at the Tosus.
Oh, you cheated. Okay, fine. Okay, anyway, I thought you were Machavin.
It was on the page.
Okay, listen, you're a Jet fan, you're a Met fan. Good. You're good. You could say anything you want. You could disturb the share. You could disturb the share anytime you want. Anyway, says that. So we have what? First teretz, guys, right? So the first teretz is what? Ein arvin simcha b'simcha. A second teretz similar to the first, right? Rabbi bar Rav Huna Amar, b'fnei sheminiach simchas haregel, v'oisik b'simchas ishtay. For those of us who are married, who've gotten married, we know that there's a lot of attention that is needed for certain members. Therefore, to go ahead and be able to be happy on Yontif while being happy here is kind of difficult. So what might happen? Might be busy here and be taken away from our Simchas Yontif. So therefore, you do not get married on Chol Moed to stay within the Simchas Yontif. So it's similar to the first one, that it has the concept of Simcha, but it differentiates. It's not because you're not mixing Simcha. It's because you're going to nem away. You're going to take away from the Simcha of the Regel. That's what we're worried about. You're going to take away from the Simcha of the Regel. Next, says the Gemara. What?
Sudas bris would take away. I mean, you make bris milah, then you have a suda after. So wouldn't that also be?
It's a mitzvah to eat. Why does it take away? That's consistent with what? The regel, eating on the regel. It's consistent. It's not a steer to the regel. But the simcha of getting married would go ahead and it's not the wedding suda, it's the act of being married. The simcha of being married. Okay. Amalei Abaye Rav Yosef said Abaye to Rav Yosef, just a comment. Had the Rabbi Rav Huna that said it's going to take away from the simcha of the regel, the Rav who? It's Rav. It's Dama Rav Diniel Barkatina Marav. Minayin Shei Noisim Nashim B'Moed. How do you know you can't get married in the Moed? Shnemar B'Samachta B'Chagecha B'Chagecha V'Lei B'Shtecha. You should be Misamech B'Chag and not with your new wife. Okay, now so we have two pshatim so far. One, they both have to do with simcha. One's b'ma'arav one with the other, and the other one what is that it's going to take away. Two more pshatim. Ula Omar. You got to pay the caterer. You got to set up a suda. You got to be busy and busy. That busyness is a tircha. And guess what? Tircha b'mayit is asa. Guys, this is tircha. Yankel, this is tircha. This is a tircha that would be asa on the mayit. A fourth teretz, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka Amar, they bittul piri v'rivya. You're going to be mevatel from the mitzvah of piri v'rivya. How is that? Look at Rashi. Nishim bittul piri v'rivya. The shari nisuin b'yontif. If you're going to go ahead and mata getting married in Yontif, ain't adam noisa isha kol hashana kula. No one will get married during the year. El mamtim ad hamayed. They'd wait until Chol Moed. Sheyeh oisa suda achas l'mayil nisuin. They'd kill two birds with one stone. They would go ahead. Now they were poor. They were poor. And you need to have a simchas nisuin. You have to have a simcha on the regel. So if you're going to tell me you're permitted to get married in the regel, you know what's going to happen? People will wait till the regel, and the male of the rest of the year, people won't be getting married, and you'll be mevatel the mitzvah of being pure v'rivya and being fruitful and multiplying. So we have four terutzim. The first one, ein marvin simcha b'simcha. The second one, it shouldn't take away from simchas yontif. The third one is what? Is that it's a tercha, and the fourth one is bittul pure v'rivya. Those are the four reasons that would be explained the first din of our Mishnah that ein nois nesuin b'mayid. Says the Gemara. Meisivet al yeshei kasha. Kol elu sha'amru. Yeah, David, you have a question? David Friedman, you have a question? Your hands up. Hello. It's a mistake? No, it says his hands are up. Okay, maybe it's a mistake. Okay, Mesave. Kol elu sha'amru. Asurun lisa b'moyed. All the ones that said that you can't get married b'moyed. You can't write a regular woman, an almana, a miyavama. All these all these that you said that you can't get married. Mutarim lisa erev regel. Erev regel you can get married. On the moed you can't, but erev yontif you can get married. Says the Gemara, kasha lekula. It's shver on all of them. Let's go through it. Outside, guys, outside. The shaver brachis are going to extend from Erev Yontif into Yontif. Like the man the Amma that it's what you're going to take away from Simchas Yontif. The shaver brachis is going to take away from Simchas Yontif. Good. Like the man the Amma of Tircha, you're going to have to matriach with the Suda with the right in Yontif. And like the man that bit the Pirivya, so people will wait till get married till Erev Yontif. You know that they'll wait to get married. So l'chayra, you got a problem. It says Mulay Kasha. Lamanda, now we go through each one. Lamanda mishum simcha ikka simcha chad yumahu. Guess what? The ikka simcha is one day. You're only happy for one day. I don't want Miriam listening to this. You can only be happy for one day. So what? So Mamela. Erev Yontif, you get married, you have no problem the rest of the days. And that also takes care of the second one, guys, right? The second one that you're not going to be taking away from the Moed. This kills two birds with one stone. You're not going to be taking away from the Moed because you were Yoitzi Simcha Erev Regel. Mamela, the rest of the Yontif, you can have Simchas Yontif. Good? Lamandi Yom Mishum Tircha, right? Because we took care of the first two reasons. Lamandi Mishum Tircha, Ikke Tircha Chad Yumahu. The Tircha is what? Is only one day. The tircha seems to be is only one day. The tircha of Nesuin is the first day of Nesuin. A person's not going to wait. Says Rashi, second line down. Since he can only begin erev regel, he's not going to wait until the regel. The dilma misrami milsa, maybe something will happen. In other words, if you know you have the whole regel, you'll wait for the regel because you'll go ahead. Your 7 days will be in conjunction with Chol Moed. But if it's one day, who knows? Maybe that one day, if that's the one day I can get married, maybe it's not going to go ahead and work. If I would have the whole regel to get married, so I would get married, and then I would have to failach sign to make failach for a bunch of days. Kill two birds with one stone is great. But for one day, to wait for one day, that you wouldn't do. So again, we're going to leave off over here. Tomorrow we're going to get into the sugya of Eim Arvin Simcha B'Simcha. And again, the share will be tomorrow morning, Bez Hashem, probably within the 10:30 time. David, you had a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is this anything to do with Minik Yerushalayim? They got married on Friday and they have to Suda Friday night?
I don't know. I think there was people that they would. I don't know. I think when the Kesubis, I remember there was a mitzvah people would get married Friday. It was I don't think it's a Minig Yerushalayim. I mean, it's not Dafka Yerushalayim. I know Rav Hutton's daughter, Rebbe David, didn't get married in Yerushalayim. She got married on Friday. They used to get married on Friday in America. They used to get married on Friday. It's like the Bila Shal Mitzvah, Friday night. Could be, that's what do it, if I remember from Kesubas correctly.
Okay. Shkoyach. Have a good night. Shkoyach.
No, it says that the Suda Shabbos, they would take care of they would take care of the poor people. They take care of the Sudas. That would be very good. Mazel tov to Rabbi Mazel tov to Rabbi Avi on the